I don't even know if I want to make this video because it's so obvious. Should the Knicks fire Tom Thibodeau? I should use my mic. Yeah, of course they should. Duh. How do I make this, like, a not hit piece on Tom Thibodeau? Like, how do I make this sound like I kind of know what I'm talking about, or this isn't coming from a hurtful place, or how do I make this sound like not just a disgruntled fan going off ranting about Tom Thibodeau? I never wanted Tom Thibodeau to be the head coach of the New York Knicks. When they were looking for their head coach, right, they fired David Fizdale. Mike Miller takes over for the last however many games, I don't even remember, 20, something like that. Has a good record. I remember going into that offseason with the list of coaches there. Will Hardy, Ime Udoka, Tom Thibodeau, Kenny Atkinson. Who else did they? They interviewed everybody. Jamal Mosley, I believe they interviewed. Everybody. Everybody was available. They interviewed like, it felt like 15 candidates. And they ultimately decided on Tom Thibodeau, which in the moment and in hindsight felt like a foregone conclusion. Tom Thibodeau was going to be the head coach of the New York Knicks because of his relationship with Leon Rose. He trusts him. His relationship with World Wide West, or his relationship throughout the Knicks organization, right? He was an assistant there under Van Gundy. He's been there before. They know him. He has a good reputation as a coach. Yada, yada, yada. The whole 9 yards. We know about Tom Thibodeau. Even in the time, it felt like he was going to be the head coach. And he was named head coach of the New York Knicks. Let's talk about the Tom Thibodeau cycle, right? This is like a thing that's been going around amongst Knicks fans. You know, the team starts out spunky, fighting, bit of a surprise throughout the league, right? Having in Chicago, having in Minnesota, having them with the Knicks. And then, you know, there's a bit of a regression. People are like, oh, yeah, well, they weren't going to keep that up. There's a bit of a regression towards the mean. So there's that. And then the downfall comes. Rotations suck. And it's built up to this. It didn't just come out of nowhere. Rotations suck. Not playing the young guys enough. Not experimenting. Defense slipping. Not a good offensive coach, so the offense has always sucked. But now with the defense slipping, now the whole team sucks. If you're going to be a defensive-minded coach, you got to have a good defense. And if you don't have a good defense, we know Tom Thibodeau's not going to have a good offense. So everything sucks. And you look at the Knicks right now, everything sucks. Their defense is worse than their offense. Their offense is average. They're an average offensive team. And their defense sucks. And it's the reason why they're losing games. And you have a defensive-minded head coach. So if the defense leaves him, what good is he? Because he's never been seen as a good developmental coach. I mean, he has cases of Jimmy Butler and do you want to give him Derrick Rose or Taj Gibson or Joakim Noah? I guess. I mean, in the case of Derrick Rose, he was on his way to superstardom. He's going to be a superstar with any coach, with any team he had around him. It just happened to be Tom Thibodeau, and he was surrounded by a pretty good team at the time. So I would exclude Derrick Rose from that just personally, just because he was a generational talent. He was going to be great in the NBA regardless of who his coach was. Taj Gibson was an older player when he came into the league, so he was kind of a vet and played his vet role. He, you know, he's always been the guy off the bench, right? He never really had potential beyond that. Joakim Noah was a great developmental story, right? Got better each year under Tibbs. Came in as a defensive guy, but really expanded his offensive game. Remember when he was the hub of Chicago's offense? So that was a great, I mean, he kind of had to be. But that was a great moment for Tibbs to point at and be like, look, I really helped Joakim Noah expand his game. Was that all Tibbs, or was that mostly Noah and some Tibbs? But it doesn't matter because Tibbs gets credit for that, right? He gets partial credit for that, or however much credit you want to give him, he gets credit. And then you go to Minnesota. I don't know what young players in Minnesota he helped. I mean, Andrew Wiggins pretty much stayed the same. Karl-Anthony Towns pretty much stayed the same. If anything, they've gotten better in their time since Tom Thibodeau, but he wasn't there that long. But even still, in the moment that he was there, he didn't really help them. As a matter of fact, he shipped out the best of those three guys in Zach LaVine for Jimmy Butler. What an awful trade that turned out to be. Because I'd rather have Zach LaVine than Andrew Wiggins or Karl-Anthony Towns. And he traded him off, and Lauri Markkanen. He traded the pick that ended up being Lauri Markkanen for Jimmy Butler, who was there for a year, and then was like, I don't want to be in fucking Minnesota. I don't want to be with these kids. Like, what do you have me here doing? They can't do anything without me. I'm this whole team. But yet we're supposed to be playing through those guys? You paid those guys over you paid me, and I'm the whole team? I'm the reason why we're good? And then he dipped. turned his back on Tibbs and was like, get me out of here. I don't care that you traded picks and good young players for me. I don't care. Get me out of here. It's funny I bring that up with Jimmy Butler turning his back on him. Not in a vicious way. I'm sure they still have a great relationship, but he was just like, you're not enough to keep me here. Like, you're a good coach, but, like, not good enough to keep me in fucking Minnesota playing with these guys I don't like. It turned out awfully. And then you have now, as I bring that up, it makes me think about Derrick Rose the other day saying, I'm in the unknown. I don't really know what my role is. You know? Which is strange, because a couple of years ago, that was like a key signifier that things were changing. It was like every guy was like, yeah, I know what my role is. This is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm going to do. And now guys are like, what am I supposed to be doing on this team? Like, Fournier's looking around like, am I playing? Am I part of the offense? Do you want me going in there chucking up shots? Do you want me leading the second unit? Do you not want me leading the second unit? What am I doing? Am I just like a placeholder until Quentin Grimes gets healthy? Like, what am I doing here? What's going on? Right? He's in the unknown. Rose already said he's in the unknown. RJ's looking around. He's like, is it Brunson time? Okay, it's Brunson time. I'll go stand in the corner. Oh, is it my time yet? No, it's Randall time? Okay, I'm going to go stand in the corner again, I guess. All right, it's my time? Cool, finally. Oh, wait, I'm cold. I'm not in rhythm at all because I barely touched the ball. Right? Like, and then Brunson's like, I got to make sure I feed Randall. I got to make sure I feed RJ. Oh, wait, I'm not in rhythm. I have 4 points going into the third quarter. Oh, okay, let me get in rhythm. Then he takes over in the third. Then nobody else has it going. And it's like, what are we doing on offense here? Well, Tom, what's your offense here? What's going on? Is it just my turn, your turn, his turn? Like, you got 3 guys who should be playing off of each other, and it feels like none of them are. It feels like it's his turn, then it's his turn, then it's his turn. And that's not helping anybody stay in rhythm. That's not helping the team stay in rhythm. You got teams shooting awfully from 3 because it feels like nobody's ever in rhythm. Nobody knows where their shots are coming from. Where does Quickly think his 3-point shots are coming from? All of Quickly's 3-point shots are pretty much self-created. I wish he could be more of a catch-and-shoot guy. He was a good catch-and-shoot guy in college. He was a good catch-and-shoot guy his rookie year. Hasn't been since then, right? I couldn't tell you where on the court Emmanuel Quickly should be expecting his 3-point shots to be coming from. They've got no plays for him. His plays are just run pick and roll and make something out of it. RJ, his 3-point shots are coming from the corners and from the wings. And then what his 3-point percentage from specific areas are, because I don't know. I also don't care because he doesn't look in rhythm. Brunson doesn't look in rhythm. Julius doesn't look in rhythm. Nobody looks in rhythm from 3. You have good 3-point shooters. I mean, Obi kind of looks in rhythm, but I just think he's become a good 3-point shooter and is confident. Other guys are like working towards that, and they're not confident because they get an open look from 3 and they're like, oh, I should take it. This is an opportunity. And then it's like, oh, yeah, but is it within the offense? Should I move it? Should I kick it? Should I hand it off and keep running the offense? Man, what is the offense? Again, I'm questioning what the offense is, and yet the offense is better than the defense. But again, this is 3 years into Tom Thibodeau being the head coach, and yet I'm looking around saying, what are we doing? But at the same time, right, let's stay on this real quick, because this is something that's been bothering me about Tom Thibodeau. He's been held as a defensive guru because of his work with the Boston Celtics as an assistant coach and was the head defensive coach for Doc Rivers when they won the championship with KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and Rajon Rondo. But the thing about that team was they had a generational defender in Kevin Garnett. And they were playing in a league that mostly played out of the mid-range. It was mid-range, get to the basket, and then get open shots from 3. But like the Orlando Magic were averaging like 28 threes a game and led the league by a wide margin. Today, they'd be dead last by a wide margin. So more 3-point shots are being taken. Better 3-point shooters are in the team. I mean, there are like 15th men on the bench who could shoot 40% from 3. They're just not very good at anything else. So at any given point, there could be 5 guys on the court who could shoot league average at worst from 3. 5 guys on the court who could shoot league average, and yet his defensive philosophy is protect the paint and then recover out the shooters. That does not work in 2022. That worked in 08. That worked in 2011. That worked in 2012 and 13 when he was a good defensive coach, a great defensive coach, because that's a very smart game plan for that era. But it does not work in 2022, and here's evidence of it. There was evidence of it 2 years ago when the Knicks When the Knicks gave up the most wide open threes of any team in the league, but got lucky by being by teams shooting the worst on open shots against the Knicks. And part of that game plan was giving open shots to the right guys, right? Poor three-point shooters. But guess what? The league is better. 2.5 years later, the league is better. Players are better from three, right? And that's a short amount of time, but it happened. And it's going to continue to happen. And that was a weird COVID year with no fans in the stands. And there's been evidence the last 2 years that it doesn't work. And he's going to keep hammering it home. Mitchell Robinson's going to come back and he's going to help shore up the defense a little bit because guys aren't going to be able to get all the way to the basket. They're going to have the shot. They're going to have to stop in that short mid-range, like 10 to 15 feet, instead of getting all the way to the basket and being able to kick it out. And then they have free shooters everywhere and the team is scrambling, trying to close out. Instead of that happening, Mitchell Robinson will help shore that up a little bit. Hopefully a lot of it, but a little bit. But even still, at best, they're going to get to league average at this rate because it's pitiful. Celtics set a franchise record in threes made against the Knicks. That was your defensive philosophy against the team with like 8 or 9 guys who could really shoot the ball. Not just like league average, like really shoot the ball. Like 40% shooters. Like you're going to close out against Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and like Sam Hauser and Marcus Smart is a league average 3-point shooter now. And Brogdon is a knockdown. He shot 40% from 3, at certain points throughout his career when he gets consistent playing time. And it's early in the season. Like, of course he's knocking those shots down. Like, that was your game plan going into that game? Right? Just, what are we doing with Tom Thibodeau here as head coach now? He is a win-now coach, and this team is nowhere near win-now. I mean, you are a win-now team when you have a player who is win-now. And you have a player who's in win-now mode when he's between the ages of like 25 and 33. Like, let's just call that an extended prime. Like, let's say great players in the league, those are like around their primes. Obviously, it changes, depending who the player is, but let's call that their prime. Let's be generous here. Let's call that their prime, 25 to 33. RJ Barrett's 22, so even if he was that guy, I'm not calling him that guy, but even if he was, he's still 3 years away from that. And when you hired Tom Thibodeau, that means he was 6 years away from that. So you hired a guy to be win now for a player who's not win now, and we're not even sure if he is that guy yet. But you hired that coach. And this is going to get into me talking about the front office, but I want to do that in a separate video. But you draft Obi Toppin. And his rookie year, he spends it with a win-now coach. You drafted him 8th overall. You drafted him 8th overall because you were a bad team the previous year, meaning you weren't going to be a good team the next year. They got lucky. It was a weird COVID year. They got lucky with some of the shooting splits. We just went over that. And they managed to sneak into the 4th seed. How that happened, they went on like a late game winning streak, a late season winning streak that got them to the 4th seed, shot them up. They should have been like a 7th or 8th seed. The winning streak shot them up. And the amount of damage that's done to this team. But again, we'll get into that when we start talking about the front office because boy, do I have opinions about that front office. Regardless, how does Tom Thibodeau rectify this situation? He doesn't. You rectify the situation by changing Tom Thibodeau. Now, this front office will never fire Tom Thibodeau unless James Dolan steps in and demands it. I don't think that's going to happen. What I think is going to happen is this team will struggle and struggle and struggle throughout the year, and they'll have some highs. They'll have a ton of lows, some highs. They'll hover around 500. They'll drop a couple of games below 500. Maybe they get a favorable portion of their schedule where they can win 3, 4, 5 games in a row, and they'll be like, hey, the Knicks are kind of turning it around, right? It's like, nah, there's just a lull in the schedule there, and they'll be an average team, just like we all predicted, but it's not going to feel good. It's not going to be a feel-good average season because, for one, the draft is special, and I don't think this team's going to be doing anything. And they're going to be stuck in the middle again. They're going to have like the 11th, 12th pick yet again, and they're not going to get anybody. That's what Tom Thibodeau is going to get us. So in the grand scheme of things, should we fire Tom Thibodeau? Yes. You have right now they were in a crossroads 2 years ago. and they chose a specific path that has got them nowhere. But they're going to enter a crossroads right now, this season. And when the road split, one path is going to be tank it, get to the bottom, right? There's a generational draft. There's 3, 4, 5 guys who are we already know there's 3 guys in this draft who we know right now are generational talents with Eamon Thompson, Scoot Henderson, and then of course Victor Wembanyama. And then the college season didn't even start, and there's going to be college guys who stand out, and there's going to be at least 1 or 2 guys who we look at like in any other year, that guy would be the number 1 overall pick. We know that's going to happen. So there's going to be 3 or 4 guys, maybe 5, who we look at and like, that guy could actually change your franchise. 3 or 4 of them in one draft, and the Knicks are going to have like the 12th pick. Because their coach doesn't understand that you can't break a brick wall down by beating your head against it. But goddamn it if he's gonna try. And he's gonna fail miserably. And this will be his last time coaching in the NBA. Because every other team around the league knows you can't have a guy running 2008 defensive schemes in 2022. It just doesn't work. Especially when you're the most uncreative coach offensively in the league right now. I mean, I just watched the OKC Knicks game where they gave up 144 points. And, like, they're trying stuff. They got 3 guards out there at one point. They've got, like, 4 guards out there at one point. They're playing, like, a 6'9" guy, James Robinson-Earl, at center. I don't know if his name is James Robinson-Earl, but Robinson-Earl at center, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl at center. He's like 6'9". He's really like a forward. They're playing Poku, power forward. They're trying stuff. They've got a young team. They're like, why not? Let's just try it. Who cares? Our number 2 overall pick's out for the year. We've got a generational point guard in Shea. We've got another generational point guard in Giddey. Let's just play them together. With Tom Thibodeau, no, you probably have Giddey backing up SGA. How is Quickly still playing 16 minutes? Why is Obi still playing 15 minutes? We already talked about Obi extensively, and I thought it was going to be changing. I thought, after I put that video up, Tom Thibodeau found religion. He started playing Obi and Randall. But slowly, he's been playing Obi less. And I know we could pinpoint as it wasn't a great matchup. It wasn't rebounding well. The defense wasn't there. But what's the alternative? Julius Randle was that much better than him? He was that much better than him that he deserved 33 minutes and Obi deserved 15? Really? We're gonna do that? I don't know what he's seeing on the court that justifies the decisions he makes. Right? Derrick Rose over Quickly at this point in their careers, where Derrick Rose looks old. He looks old. Not just bad, he looks old. He can't guard anybody right now. And I don't know if he ever will be able to. He's 34. I don't blame him. This should be the time where it's like, okay, Quickly, here we go. Rose has aged out of the role he was 2.5 years ago. Right? That Derrick Rose is no longer around. He just had off-season surgery. He's come back. Not only has he looked rusty, he doesn't look like old Derrick Rose. So it's time to move on. Here you go, Quickly. Here's the key. And he hasn't done it. Just hasn't done it. And what more does Quickly have to prove? I mean, he's had games, a lot of games this year so far, where he hasn't shot well. Okay, but he's played well. And that's one of Tom Thibodeau's mantras. You could play well without shooting well, and Quickly has done that in majority of the games he's played this year, and yet has still not been rewarded. That's bad coaching. Players lose confidence in you when you do everything they ask you to do and you don't reward them with anything. As a matter of fact, Quickly's minutes have gone down slightly. And you still have Derrick Rose coming in 6 minutes into the ballgame over him. I mean, like I said, players lose confidence in you. There's a reason why, a little Quickly news tidbit came out the other day of other teams exploring trade options for him. There's a reason why that came out. I have no inside info. I'm just saying, there's a reason why those stories come out. losing confidence, and losing your coach is one of them, right? Same thing with Obi. How much more do I have to prove? I was no impact for you my rookie year because my offense was bad and my defense was bad. And so you played me like 8 minutes per game, whatever it was. My second year I came back better defensively than I was my rookie year. Better offensively than I was my rookie year. Slight increase, like 3 or 4 minute increase in his playing time. We went over that in our Obi Toppin video. And then this year, it's pretty much the same. No improvement from last year. And at the same time, he's significantly better. He's significantly better than he was last year. 3-point shooting's real. Off the dribble moves, real. Passing, real. Effort, energy, play hardness. Real. It's all real. Those are things he does. Those are things we know. He cares. He tries hard. He may not be good defensively, but he tries hard. You know what Julius Randle doesn't do right now is try hard defensively. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know what's going on. Guys are just strolling to the rim. Guys are back cutting him constantly. I mean, we point out every time it happens to RJ, but it happens 20 more times to Julius Randle. It's like you just don't care at some point. Sometimes you look at guys and it's like you just don't care. You don't have pride. You don't have pride in your defense. Tom Thibodeau has had the opportunity, multiple opportunities, to be creative with this roster, and he just has not really tried anything. Like I said, he's trying to brute force something to work that just doesn't work in 2022. Your defensive schemes are outdated. You've never been a good offensive coach. They're outdated. They're very predictable. 3 years into it, everybody knows what the Knicks are running because you've had small, little, tiny wrinkles. And shout out to Benji Reynolds because he points them out occasionally. But he only does it occasionally because it only happens occasionally. Small, tiny wrinkles into his offense over the last 3 years. I mean, the players have changed. We went from Bullock to Fournier to now to Cam Reddish. Those are 3 guys with 3 completely different play styles, and yet they're being asked to do the same things. What? Why is Cam Reddish playing the Reggie Bullock role? I have no idea why. He has a completely different game than that. He's a slasher at heart. Why are we not taking advantage of that? Every time I see Cam Reddish streaking down the sidelines with his hands up, like, please give me the ball. I'm a monster in transition. I'm like, please give that guy the ball. And our centers look at him and they give it to Randall or they give it to Brunson. And they slowly walk the ball up the court. And I'm like, man, between Reddish and RJ and Quickly and Toppin, the athletes on this court, this should be a fun team to watch. And yet we walk the ball up the court. What are we doing? What is the purpose of any of this? Now, this isn't 100% Tom Thibodeau's fault because the front office has to take culpability as well. But as the head coach, you have decisions to be made. And every night, every game, it feels like we're looking at Tom Thibodeau and we're going, why? Why? Like you just got to throw at some point, he's not going to have a job anymore as the head coach. At some point, he's not going to be the head coach of the Knicks. And I happen to think it's going to be at the end. I think they're going to give him the full year. At the end of this year, they're not going to have Tom Thibodeau be the head coach. And I keep phrasing it that way because I'll talk about it more in my front office video. But at some point, Tom Thibodeau is not going to be the head coach of this team. And his lasting memory will be, man, that guy just wasn't, like, it felt like he just didn't try. Like, you have different options here. Like, he's going to an 11-man rotation, which means you have 11 guys who deserve minutes, right? It's good and bad, obviously. But why? There are certain lineups we just haven't seen out there. Like IQ, RJ, Obi, Hartenstein with plug in whoever, Quinn Grimes, Cam Reddish. Right? There's certain lineups where it feels like that should be a staple we go to, for offense, for an offensive push. But we have a bunch of young guys and athletes out there, and he just doesn't do it. And for some reason, he's so committed to Julius Randle and his play style and what's best for him and how can we get Julius going when he's just not that player. He had one outlier season. And for some reason, Tom Thibodeau thinks that he can go back to that well when it's completely dried up. It's done. You need to move on. You need to get creative. You need to find new ways, find new life. You have younger players who have gotten older, who should have more responsibility, and yet it feels like they don't. It feels like they have less responsibility. You keep going to the Derrick Rose well. It's dried up. Right? Quickly should be getting a majority, if not all of those minutes. I wondered going into this how I can have this not be a rant. And here I am ranting. Tom Thibodeau, this is what I think is going to happen. Tom Thibodeau will most likely finish this season as the head coach of the New York Knicks. And then he will be promoted in the same vein that the Celtics needed to move on from Brad Stevens, and they didn't want to fire him because it wasn't like he was a bad coach and did a bad job. This is a different case than that. I think he's doing a bad job now. I think Tom Thibodeau is doing a bad job. But Leon Rose, and I can't wait to do that for an office video. Leon Rose is not going to fire his friend. He's not going to potentially ruin that friendship that's been around for years. What I think will happen is Tom Thibodeau will get a promotion into the front office, into some role, advisor, head scout, or NBA scout, or whatever position they give him, right? It's going to be like the same position Worldwide West has. What is his position? I don't know. It's a position, though, a high-ranking position in the front office, and I think Tom Thibodeau's going to get the same treatment, and he's going to be promoted into the front office, and hopefully, Johnny Bryant gets promoted to head coach. And if they keep it in the family, they keep it positive, and nobody walks away like, I got screwed out of that situation, it was a bad situation, and whatever. And hopefully Johnny Bryant's a good coach. He's never been a head coach before. We hear good things about him, but we don't know. And we won't know, until we see him actually coach, which won't be until next season, which I hope is for the New York Knicks. And I hope he gets the head coaching job. And I hope they make it easy. I hope they don't do like this big head coach search. I already assume this is Tom Thibodeau's last head coaching job in the NBA. And that he is not going to be the head coach next season. So I hope that Johnny Bryant is just straight ahead promoted into the head coaching position. I hope there's not a big coaching search and they're like, but we could go in another direction. Just give him the opportunity. Let's just see. I mean, what more do we have to lose, honestly? This team is going nowhere fast. You have to do something. And I think letting go of Tom Thibodeau as the head coach, hiring a younger, more creative mind in Johnny Bryant as the head coach, hopefully that works out. Because Lord knows it has to at this point.